Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the virtual stage. It's Joanna Parsons. Hello, I absolutely love introducing myself like that. Hello, welcome to this webinar where we are going to talk about the practical real life ways that comms teams are using AI. If we haven't met yet, my name is Joanna Parsons. I am an internal communications trainer, author, lecturer, all around nerd, I think is fair to say. I've worked in internal comms for about 15 years. And up until about 2.5 years ago, I was always in-house. And now I run my own business called The Curious Route. I run a membership called The Curious Tribe. And I even run a YouTube channel all about internal comms. And I tell you this because I want you to know that you are in good hands. You are in a safe pair of hands today where we can explore real life situations where comms teams are using AI. So that's a little bit about me. I would love to hear from you before we get stuck in. So open up that chat box for me there. Give me one word that describes how do you feel about AI right now? Optimistic, excited. Well, I was about to say Boston, but I think you're telling me where you're from. Overwhelmed, empowered. Someone says gross, skeptical, curious, a lot of curious. Okay. Nervous, tentative, overhyped, confused. Okay. So we can see quite quickly, can't we? There are a whole gamut of emotions that we feel about AI, all the way from very positive, optimistic, hopeful, excited, somewhere in the middle where you're curious, you're exploring, you're interested, and down the end where you're feeling a bit fed up or you're not interested that much. I was thinking about what you might say, and this is what I thought would come up. I'm really happy that this worked. Imagine you hadn't said any of these words. These are the words that come up over and over again when I talk to communication professionals about how they feel about AI right now. So, quite a lot of these words. You said in the chat curious, nervous, skeptical, optimistic, excited, confused, interested, lost, hopeful, inadequate. Some people feel really left behind. Some people feel like everyone's doing these incredible things and they don't know where to start. So if you are anywhere on that spectrum and you're looking for practical ideas on how you can actually use AI and what are other people doing, then you're in exactly the right place. So I'm going to talk for about half an hour, then I'll take your questions. And the idea is that you will leave here with some inspiration that you can go, I'm going to try that. I'm going to give that a go. So that's what we're going to talk about, how people are using AI. Today is not about theory, it's not about the ethics, it's not about the academic exploration of AI in society. I am lucky enough that in my role as a consultant and a trainer, I get to see inside lots and lots of organizations and work with lots of different comms teams who tell me and show me how they're using AI. And if you're anything like me, when I was working in house, I always felt like internal comms was quite secretive. Like I always wanted to know what are other teams doing. But there's really no way of finding out, and everything on LinkedIn can be a little bit guarded and a little bit polished. So, lucky for you, my professional nosiness and my professional curiosity, I'm going to show you 5 stories today of what comms teams are doing with AI. And if you're interested in more of this, if you want me to share more examples in a future webinar or make this into a series, you can let me know in the chat. I will look at all of those later. Okay, so before I dive into the actual examples, I just want to have a quick note about the patterns or the kind of themes that I see in how comms teams and practitioners are approaching AI. Some people are starting with the tools, and some people are starting with the problems. When I say starting with the tools, for example, I had just heard a story the other day of a company that bought a ChatGPT enterprise license and then announced a big staff competition to say, oh, we'd love to hear your ideas for how we can apply this tool in the business. And I thought this was very strange because why did you buy a tool if you don't know what it's for? So sometimes I see comms professionals will start with the tool and they might go onto a website like this. This is an AI tools directory. This is one of many such websites. They are basically big lists, big directories of tons and tons of AI tools that you can play around with. I don't know about you, but I find it very hard to go on a website like this and do anything of value because I don't really know what I'm there to achieve. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of looking at lots of tools. But the way that I'm going to position things today is not starting with the tools, but rather starting with the problems that you are trying to solve. And that is the common theme that I see with comms professionals and comms teams who are doing really good work with AI. They're telling me this, here's how we're using AI to solve problems. So problem first, tool later. It's a little bit like buying Workvivo and then going, oh, we'll figure out how to use it later. We'll figure out what problem it's solving. I mean, you do that at the start, don't you? So the five stories I'm going to tell you, let's start with the problem that they had, and then let's start exploring how did they use AI to solve that problem, rather than just talking about tools, because that's not so helpful. Okay, let's start with quite interesting example from a client of mine. Let's see what their problem was and see how they used AI to solve it. So this client, I'm not going to name any of the companies, obviously. Let's call them Company X. So this company has been around for ages. They are just about to celebrate their 100th anniversary. And anyone who's been in like a heritage history organization knows that when a big anniversary like this comes up, it's a huge amount of work for any comms team. It's going to be lots of campaigns, lots of celebrations, lots of recognitions. And this team went digging around to see what they could find in the archives and what could they use, what content could they pull out. And they found, like comms gold, they found this old box of company photos tucked away in a cupboard. They had pictures of like the first ever CEO outside the first ever office, the picture of the first ever company car. They had pictures of employees all through the years, employee weddings and employee babies and everything. Total gold. But here was the problem. The pictures were really old and they were on Polaroids or printed photos from film. They were grainy, they were pixelated, some of them were torn. They weren't good enough quality to actually use them, particularly not in any print materials. And they wouldn't have been good enough resolution to put on digital screens or on the internet. So they were thinking, oh, jeepers, this is going to be expensive. We're going to have to send these to some specialist company, get them all touched up, figure out how to do it. And one of them said, I wonder, could we use AI to try and solve this problem for us? So do you see the way they started with the problem? And then after, they look for the tool. So I asked them what they did, and I have done an example of what they did for you. So I don't have their photo. This is a photo that I took from Google. This is a public photo of the Garda is the Irish police force. I used to work there, very close to my heart. This is a photo. I don't know when this is from, but obviously decades ago. The police cars in Ireland don't look like this anymore. But this is the kind of quality of photo that they had found in this box tucked away in the cupboard. Quite grainy, can't really see their face. Everything's a bit pixelated, and you wouldn't really blow this up and put this on a screen. So they were Googling around and they found some AI tools that could touch up photos. And they were like, I wonder, could this help us? So I took this photo from Google, I put it through this AI tool, and here's what I came up with. So you can see it's just sharpened up the whole image. This took about 4 seconds of processing time. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Does it need to be perfect? Absolutely not. So I thought this was pretty great. Just sharpened it up, cleaned it up, and they were able to take this old box of photos, run some of them through a tool like this, and then use them in their campaign. So I thought this was a really clever way to solve that problem. If you want to use a tool like this, just Google image restoration AI or photo enhancer AI, anything like that. There are a bunch of tools out there, but this is a really fun one to play around with. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next story is about a client who was doing some survey analysis. So again, let's start with the problem that they had and how did they solve it using AI. So here is the problem. Let's call this one company Y. They do a big annual employee engagement survey and they always get a lot of responses. They've pretty like engaged workforce. They don't always get tons of open comments, but this year they did. They got more than 800 of them. And the team were a bit taken aback and they were thinking, we have not blocked off like days of time to go through all this because if employees have taken the time to give you that feedback, you need to read it all, you need to group it, you need to analyze it, you need to think about what are we going to do with this and what does this mean. So they were thinking this is a bit of a problem. Like, it's great that they gave us all of this, but we don't have days and days to look at this. I wonder, is there an AI tool that could help us solve this problem? So again, problem, solution, problem, solution. This is what they did. They used a large language model. So that is ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, whichever one you want to use. They all pretty much do the same thing. They took all the survey comments and they uploaded them into, I think it was ChatGPT they used. They put them all in there. And then they started creating prompts. Now I have like a few here, but they did loads. Basically anything they wanted to find out from those comments, they asked the robot to sift through it all, analyze it, find it. So for example, can you identify the top 5 themes? Can you analyze the sentiment? So what percentage of these comments are positive and what percentage are negative? That's a really interesting, like, helicopter view of those comments. Can you pull out sample quotes? So when you're thinking about building your slide deck to present this to your leaders, it's great to have verbatim quotes from employees up there to really illustrate, and you can pull that out as well. And then my client thought, you know what, this is really good, and we've got lots of analysis, and it saved me going through all of this in detail. I wonder, could we even go a little bit further? And they did this action step, and they started asking more questions into this large language model. Based on this analysis, give me 5 short-term actions and 5 longer-term actions to address the main themes. Now, this isn't their action plan that they went and carried out, but this gave them really interesting things to think about. Particularly these are short-term things that we could do pretty easily with no budget. These are longer-term things that are going to address bigger issues. How can we start thinking about this in terms of putting this feedback into action? So I thought this was a really good, smart use of AI. It solved a problem because they were going to have to do this work anyway. It just took that manual, tedious, anyone who's ever had to go through all the survey comments. I've done it many, many times. Anyone knows the pain of that. So this just solved that problem. And then they could spend more time on this bit and really thinking as a team, like, what does the organization need to do to address these issues rather than spending all the time in the analysis. So I thought this was really clever. That tool type was a large language model. So again, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, whichever one your organization allows you to use, doesn't matter. Okay, they are the first 2 examples. Before we do the next 3, I would love to do a giveaway because sure, it's nearly Christmas and wouldn't we all love some free money in our lives? So Workvivo would love to give you a €200 Visa gift voucher, which I think is a wonderful prize. And you know what? I would highly encourage you, if you are the winner of this giveaway, don't spend this on someone else's Christmas present. Buy yourself a Christmas present. Like, you've earned it. You've had a good year. So I'm going to show you a short video from Workvivo, and then I'm going to tell you how to win this fabulous prize. So let's do the video first.
Meet Workvivo AI.
Hi everyone, my name is Anya McNamara. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer with Workvivo, and I'm here today to give you an overview of Workvivo AI. Workvivo AI is there to help you with a variety of different tasks and processes that you might go through on Workvivo on a daily basis. First off, as a communications manager, you could use our Compose feature for creating content. If we imagined I was a communications manager at Virgin in this case, Virgin are one of our customers, you can decide to give it a quick prompt, choose the tone and length of the piece of content you want to create, and also decide if you would like to align that to your company values, so that even though you're using AI, you're still going to be aligning the content you create back to your values. You can see it's created a quick post for me here. Next up, we have the Ask feature. Through the Ask feature, you have the ability to train our AI on any of the news articles or pages that you have across Workvivo. This means that your employees will be able to easily surface the answers to the questions that they have when they're using Workvivo every single day, and then of course link back to the source content, which is actually going to pull from. Third, we also have the ability to use Workvivo AI for survey generation. If you wanted to, say, create a quick survey, all you have to do is hit on the AI icon, which you can see here. Again, give it a quick prompt. Maybe this time I want a survey around feedback from the last town hall meeting, and I'm going to designate to say that I want it to have 3 questions. You can see here that it's really quickly retrieved 3 questions which are relevant to my prompt, which I can then insert into my survey and then modify however I might need. For your frontline employees, of course, Workvivo AI is also available on mobile, both for the creation of content and also the retrieval of content. And on our product roadmap, we also have some really exciting features coming around AI search and also AI embedded into employee insights, which is our employee listening module. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick demo of Workvivo AI. If you've any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask.
Work smarter, faster, and more effectively with Workvivo AI, empowering people to thrive and organizations to flourish.
Okay, I think Workvivo are doing a stunning job with AI. And again, I think it's pretty clear in that video. They're identifying the problems and how can we use AI to solve those problems. Okay, now I want to give somebody that €200 voucher. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to pick up your phone, it's probably in front of you, and you're going to open up your camera. After this slide, I'm going to give you two different slides you can take a selfie with. I have deliberately put this picture of myself on the screen because maybe you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not camera ready. That's me with absolutely no makeup done and my hair not done. If I can do it, you can do it. We're all friends here. What you're going to do is you're going to pick up your phone, you're going to just turn around something like this, and you're going to take a picture of yourself. And I will give you the slides to do that, and then I will tell you what to do with that picture. So here's one of the slides you can use for your selfie. This is a quote from someone you may have heard of, Albert Einstein. I just love this quote. He said, I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious. And I think that bit about curiosity is so fundamental to being successful in internal comms, particularly when you want to play around with the AI, to really get deeply curious about how can an AI tool help me? How can it solve a problem? How can I use it in a way that is helping the business? So hopefully you've had time to take a selfie there. I'm going to give you another screen here if you prefer to use this one, you can. This one is from Charles Darwin, who says it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And we'll definitely see that some people have been very reluctant to engage with AI at all since it came around, which I can kind of understand actually, because I rewatched The Matrix recently. If you haven't seen The Matrix since AI has come out, please go back and watch it. It's terrifying. I hadn't seen it in about 20 years. But AI is here, and the people that are most responsive to it and most curious about it can probably get the most value out of it. So hopefully you have had time to take a selfie. I'll show you one of these slides again at the end, in case your camera is acting up or you want time to do your hair. Here's what I want you to do. This is super simple. You're going to post your picture on LinkedIn and you're going to put some sort of one-liner on the top of it. Now, if I was you and I was sitting there, I'd be like, I don't know what to say. So I've given you some examples here, like keep it simple. You could say, start with the problems you're trying to solve, not the tools you want to use. You could say, great masterclass today on how comms teams are actually using AI. You could say, feeling fired up after a great session of AI inspiration today, or whatever your one-liner is. Don't overthink it. The important part is that you tag me, you tag Workvivo, otherwise I won't see it and I can't put you in the draw. And I'm going to go through them all on Monday. I'm going to have a big fat cup of coffee and I'm going to have a great time going through them all. And I will, at random, pick a winner, and Workvivo will contact you directly to give you €200, which I would love then if you contact me and tell me what did you buy for yourself as your lovely reward for a hard year of work. Okay, so that is the giveaway. Shall we go back into a few more examples? I think we should. Okay, example 3 of a client of mine that is using AI to solve a problem. So let's call this one Company Z. This is probably a familiar scenario to many of you. In this situation, HR has just updated their benefits policy and they've put it into this 20-page document, and they've come to the internal comms team and said, here, just send that out. Everybody needs that. And the internal comms team are thinking, well, first of all, it's 20 pages. Nobody's going to read all that. But also the language is a little bit complex and there's some jargon in there and it's not totally clear. Like it's not that easy to read. But they know that it's really important for employees to know because this is stuff to do with their pensions and their benefits. And there's also actions that employees need to take by specific deadlines. This is important stuff. So that's the problem they're facing. And they're thinking, well, do you know what? one of the solutions to this is why don't we just pull out and create an FAQ document, like skimmable, scannable, the questions that are most likely to be on employees' minds. Why don't we pull them out? So this is the kind of thing you've probably all done this at some point. It's manual, isn't it? It just takes time. You have to go through it and you have to find the questions and then pull out the stuff and then you have to check if it's all right. So this team said, well, I reckon we could probably get AI to help us to do this. So let's have a go and see what happens. And this is what they did. So I think they used Claude, which is again a large language model similar to Copilot or ChatGPT. And this is the prompt that they use. Here's a 20-page benefits policy update. And they uploaded the document. Identify the 6 questions employees are most likely to ask and draft clear, concise answers for each. Now, I put 6 in this example I could show you because it was kind of all I could fit in the screen. But you could say 20 questions. You could say, what are the top 10 most important questions? Give me all the questions employees might possibly have. And then you can see the output here is exactly what we've asked for, clear and concise. We've got the questions and we've got really short answers. And the answers are like there's dates and there's statistics and there's percentages and there's numbers and all the information that the employees would actually need. So again, this was something the comms team was going to have to do anyway, and they've got a robot to do it instead, which I just thought, again, a smart shortcut to take. And that tool type is a large language model. So if you have access to any large language model, ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, any of them, you can work this way. Okay, and here's a slightly different one. This was a client of mine who came to me after all this had happened and was telling me this story, and I was so impressed with her immediately. So, this lady, this is not her, this is a stock photo. Imagine that was actually her, that would be so weird. This lady took a job, let's call it Company B. She joined as head of internal comms, and this company had never had an internal comms function before. She came in to set it up, and she had been there about 8 months, and she had developed the first internal comms strategy, and she was preparing to go into the leadership team to present it. And for her, this was a really high stakes meeting, right? Because she needed them to buy into this strategy to support her decisions and her direction. And there was a lot of work for them, like to make the strategy succeed as well. So she was thinking, oh, jeepers, I really need to be like, I really need to nail this presentation. But I'm a team of one. I don't have a team under me. I don't have a peer network really. I can't ask for help for this on LinkedIn. I need like a different perspective on this. I need someone to give me like the challenging questions and help me get into the mind of my audience so that I can prepare better for this. So that was her problem. Who's going to help her prepare for the presentation? And she thought, I wonder, could I use AI for that? Do you see? Problem, solution, problem, solution. This is really the way that I recommend working. So this is what she did. She used a large language model. She used ChatGPT and she broke it into 3 stages. I was so impressed when she was telling me this. Step 1, she said, was explaining or like context setting. So she told this tool all about herself and her role and how she had come into this company and what she was tasked to do. She told it about the context of the presentation, that this was the first ever internal comms strategy for this company. She uploaded the presentation so the robot could read it. And then she talked about her desired outcomes. When I leave that room, I want those leaders to think this, to feel that, and to do this. And she wrote out her communications objectives. And then she went a step further and she told the robot about the leadership team, not as one homogenous group, but about the individuals in that room. What did they care about? Who are they? How long have they been there? Everything she knew about them basically went in here. And then she started creating prompts. She started asking questions. And she had this little niggle. She's like, do you know what? I think the toughest nut to crack in that room is going to be the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. So she told the robot everything she knew about the CFO and said, I want you to play the role of the skeptical CFO. Challenge me. Ask me tough questions. What areas are you going to push back on and why? And it spat her out all of these difficult, tricky, awful, awful questions that she kind of hadn't considered. And she was like, oh, yeah, like I need to prepare for this. So that's where she went into step 3, where she used all of this output from the AI to review all the tough questions. She refined her presentation because the CFO had picked up on things maybe that she could have said clearly, more clearly, or she could have addressed preempted objections in the presentation. And then she rehearsed her whole approach and she walked into that meeting feeling like I am super prepared, like I am ready to smash this. And she did, by the way, she did a wonderful job. But that was a really smart way of like, I'm a team of one, I need some help, I need somebody to just challenge me a little bit. She used AI to solve that problem. Clever lady, I can see why she got the job. So that is, again, a large language model you can use if you want to use AI in this way. And then the very last example I want to share with you before we go over to your questions. By the way, there's a Q&A box, I think. So if you have any questions you want me to tackle at the end, please put them in there because the chat is a million miles long and I won't see it. Okay, let's look at what this last team did, turning a podcast into multiple pieces of content. So that is the tactic, but that is not the problem. So let's explore the problem first. This one we'll call them Company A. Now, Company A has been around for a long time. It's quite a traditional company. They are not one for lots of disruption and change and transformation. Rather, they have been a steady ship for a very long time. They've had the same CEO for 15 years, but he retired and a new CEO joined. And this new CEO was from outside the company. Nobody knew who she was, they didn't know anything about her. And this kind of change caused a lot of anxiety. Like, that's quite normal in employees because they didn't know, jeepers, is this going to change everything? Is she going to come in and start moving everything around and restructuring? And they didn't know. So the internal comms team sat down with the new CEO and got her to do a video podcast. She talked for about 45 minutes and she was so candid and so open. And she talked about herself and her career and her aspirations for the business and her vision for the future and how she planned to go on a listening roadshow for the next 3 months. And total comms gold, absolutely brilliant. But of course, the problem is how many employees are going to watch or listen to a podcast for 45 minutes? I don't know an employee on the planet that would have the time for that. So they knew we're going to have to break this up into different formats for different audiences, for different channels. It's a bit of work. That's a bit of a problem. We're understaffed. Would we use AI to help us with this? I think you can guess by now the answer is always yes. Okay, so this is what they did. They took that video podcast and they first got the full transcript of that. So they got the full, every word that she said in a Word document, word for word. Then they got that to extract a 500 word summary that they could use in a newsletter article, in a blog, in an all staff email, whatever they needed that for. They have a short summary that captured the main points. Then they were able to pull out 5 top quotes that they could use as like vox pops and they could put it on digital screens and they could pepper it around the place. They also created an FAQ document about the new CEO because they really wanted employees to feel like, yes, there is a big change, but you're in good hands and we really want to build trust in this new leader. They created like a top 5 takeaways that employees should know about the new CEO. And they also cut this 45-minute video into a burst of short video clips that they could pepper around a little bit like the way companies will do for social media, little short, tiny clips with her talking about different topics. I just thought this was a really smart way to take that big chunky piece of content and understand that lots of employees are not going to watch that or listen to that, and that's okay, but you can make that into lots of different content. Now, the tool type for this was multiple. So, like if you want your transcription, like Zoom can do that, Otter, Descript, Teams, depends what you're recording on, but the transcription is easy. For any of the written bits, like all of these bits, use a large language model for that. And then for the short video clips, anything like Descript, Opus Clip, I think CapCut can do it. Lots of these video tools can now have an AI component that will go in and chop it up for you, like incredible. So I think you'll see that the theme of all of these is they have a problem and they need to do something about it. And they're curious enough to explore, can AI help me solve this problem? And I think these teams have done like a really wonderful job because they keep coming back to this notion of solving the problem. So if you have one takeaway from today, if you forget everything else, I just want you to start thinking less about the tools and the shiny new objects, but rather about the approach of problem first, identifying the problem, then figuring out how do we need to solve it and can AI help us with that solution. Okay, if you have not had a chance to take your selfie for the very generous giveaway with our friends from Workvivo, you can take your selfie now. I would also love, while we're giving people a chance to take a selfie, I would love to hear from you in the chat. Let me open up the chat box. Now that you're thinking about this slightly differently and you're moving away from tools towards problems, what kind of problems do you have in your organization that you're now thinking, I wonder, could AI help me with that? So we saw some of the problems these companies have. Well, I have these old photos, but they're a bit crap and I can't use them. I have all this survey comments and I don't have time to do it. So here we go. Let's have a look. Formatting documents properly. The open rate on my emails, okay, curating content, analyzing comms data, like that's a great one. Like I'm a total nerd for analysis, but it does take time. If I can speed it up, I absolutely will. So just to begin thinking about what are the problems that you can solve, what you need to solve. Okay, there's a lot of engaging employees in campaigns, simplifying and categorizing stakeholder requests. Interesting. So there's a million things, but start with the problem first. That's what I would really encourage you to do. Okay, one invitation before I start taking your questions. My first event of 2026 is again with my lovely friends at Workvivo on the 13th of January. I would love you to be there. James from Workvivo will pop a link into the chat where you can sign up for this. We're going to be talking about strategy, all things strategy for 2026. So if you want to get some inspiration for how to be thinking a little bit more strategically going into the new year, we will be back for this event in January. And now I'm going to open up your questions. How do I do that? Q&A. All right, let's have a look. Okay, the first question is privacy when you share photos in AI. Okay, so I don't know where you work. I don't know what you're allowed to use. Each organization at this stage probably has some sort of AI policy, guardrails, guidelines. If in doubt, ask your IT team what you're allowed to use. I wouldn't go renegade and start using things that you don't have permission to. So check with your IT team to see what you're allowed to use. Okay, this is a great one. Lindsay Lawman, do you feel like you're cheating when you use AI? I think this is such a great question because, like, I think about this in terms of the history of technological advances and disruptions and how this has always been a thing. Like my mum, like I'm showing my age now, but my mum used to like have a typewriter when she was back in an office and she'd be banging away on this. And then sure, when computers came in, she'd nearly feel like she was cheating because the keyboards, you didn't have to hit them as hard. And what do you mean you don't have to push the thing across to roll more paper on or redo the ribbon? And she sort of felt like part of the labor was gone and was she cheating? But the output was the same and she was still as productive. And I think about technological disruptions that make us question things like that. For me, AI is a tool. It's only as good as the way that I use it. I can use AI all day long and produce a load of crap, or I can use it and produce really good work. And like how I get to that end goal of the good work for me doesn't really matter. Am I solving a business problem? Am I helping the organization? Am I doing a good job? Yeah, great. Who cares what tools I'm using? So that's my take. No, I don't feel like it's cheating. But I think that's a really interesting question because I think a lot of people feel like that. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I would love to hear from other people in the chat, like where you feel on that. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of questions here, so I'm just having a look. Do. Okay. Okay, Maggie O'Sullivan. Accuracy. How to check. Oh God, this is jumping all around the place. How to check the accuracy of the output without going through and doing the work yourself. I've had bad experiences. Yeah, okay, this is fair. What I would probably do is I would start with something small, uncomplicated and low risk, and something short where you can actually manually check like the accuracy of the tool that you're using. And if the tool is giving you all sorts of nonsense that really isn't helpful, should I stop sharing? Maybe I should. I'll get rid of that. There you go. Now you can just see my giant head. Um, Test out the tool. Like if it's giving you a load of rubbish and it's not trustworthy, then maybe don't use that tool. Otherwise, something you could try is you can, it sounds a bit weird, but you can feed the output back into the tool and ask it to check it against the original document and find discrepancies or find errors or find misalignments. And sometimes it can correct itself, which is interesting. Now, I would often use a tool called Claude. It's not a problem. That tool is really good. So I think it just depends on the tool you're using. Try to find one that's good, and that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay. Do. Now, in saying that, I see Jim just said in the chat there, like, please check the output. Of course, maybe I should say that. I feel like it goes without saying. Always check the output from any AI tool. It's not the finished product. It's your starting point. But like, you still need to look at it and check it and reflect and like think. It doesn't really do all that for you. Okay. Do you think the sudden urge, this is Megna, do you think the sudden urge across the industry to consider how AI fits into internal comms is forced? Is it truly needed, or is it a way of integrating something that isn't vital, but instead making individuals dependent on it? I mean, I think that's a fair question. And I think maybe you're reiterating my point that we've talked about all the way through this is that people are jumping to the tools first and saying we need these tools, but actually it's about stepping back and thinking, well, why do we need them? And do we need them? And are they helping us to solve a problem? Or are we just using tools for the sake of it? So you don't need to use AI if you don't need it. If it's not solving a problem for you, if it's not valuable to you, don't use it. I think there is a bit of a bandwagonism, if that's a word, around AI right now. Maybe there's a bit of an AI bubble. I think it will probably settle down as people really just realize it's just another tool to help us do the work. But I think, as Caitlin comments under that, it is a problem in all industries. Like that example I said earlier of the company that bought ChatGPT and then asked the companies to figure out how to use it. Like that's not a comms industry. So this is not just a comms thing, I think. How to facilitate upskilling staff on AI. Okay, that's a good question because it's so broad, isn't it? Like, facilitate upskilling staff on AI for what purpose? Like, what is it that you want them to do? What is your training objective? So I think that is too broad. I would drill down a lot tighter, and maybe it's that you have Copilot and you want people to know how to use Copilot for reasons ABC, or you want them to know how to integrate it with their inbox or whatever. But I just think that's too broad, and maybe that's the difficulty. Like, how do you do that? I would narrow it down and get yourself a really clear, measurable objective and then go from there. Okay. Sorry, I hope I'm not lashing through these too fast. I'm trying to give you all a chance. Okay, Catherine Webb, how does it work in terms of privacy when you upload an internal comms presentation to ChatGPT? It probably will have lots of financial info in it or HR stuff. Okay, so this is where it comes back to your permissions in your organization. Some organizations have a ChatGPT, like an internal one, so it can read all their internal documents. It can access all their internal systems. It's not like the same as like the public one. This is like a company one, and you have permission then to put up whatever you want, and it doesn't matter if there's any sensitive stuff going in it. Not at all the way you would behave with like the public ChatGPT. Lots of organizations will use Copilot in the same way, so Copilot can read all of your internal documents, that kind of thing. So if you have any nervousness around that or you're worried about that, please check your IT team just to check that you're okay to put up stuff like that. But if you have an internal tool that's allowed to read your files, fire on. Okay, right. What's your view on the M dash? Take it out or leave it in? Well, do you know what? I love to read, and I love to read like old classics and flowery language, and the M dash is in an awful lot of them. So, I mean, you can't take it out just because ChatGPT has gone ruined it. But it's funny now, isn't it? I feel like I can't use it because people will think that ChatGPT is writing my content, but poor old M Dash was took a bit of a battering. This is a good question again. Meghna, jeeps, you're firing them in here. Are there any major gaps you've noted that AI cannot support internal comms on? I mean, yeah, like human judgment, relationship building, the nuances of decision making, really that thoughtful, reflective piece of, I know my audience, I know the business, I understand how all of this works, I know the politics of the business, I know the politics with a small p of the stakeholders, I know how to connect the dots, I know what needs to be done, I'm listening to my instinct, I'm looking at the data. I mean, again, AI is a tool you use to do the job. It's not doing the job. So maybe that's, oh, that's good as I say that out loud. So it's a tool, but it's not the communicator. There are a million things that AI can't do for you. So, like, I know some people are coming out saying AI will take your job and comms professionals will be all gone. I don't believe that. Maybe I'm naive, but I really don't believe that. Okay, let me see. Um, Okay, Harshada, I hope I'm saying your name right. I feel AI has to be given a lot of prompts to make it human. Prompting correctly is a skill now that people, especially comms people, should learn from it. I think this is a good point because a mistake that I see people make a lot is they'll put in a prompt to help solve a problem. And then ChatGPT will spit something out and the person goes, oh, well, that's crap. Like that doesn't solve my problem. And they'll finish it there. But the trick to prompting and to really getting good stuff out of a large language model is an iterative approach. So it spits you back something and then you prompt it again and you get more specific in your ask and really, really precise. It's nearly like the way you might talk to a toddler. You say, clean up the playroom. Like it's too vague. No, I'm not doing it. You say, pick up two blue toys and put them in that toy box. They're, they know exactly what to do and they'll do it. So that's the kind of approach. Get really, really specific in your prompt and ask again and again. I mean, if you think about the name ChatGPT, like it's about having a chat. So go back and forth, go back and forth. You'd be amazed at how you can get really far if you take an iterative approach to prompting. Right. Jeepers. Sorry now, I'm struggling to get through these. It keeps jumping all around the screen and everything. Okay, done that one. Okay. Here's an interesting one from Crystal. Should you tell employees you used AI to create the articles, emails, photos, etc.? I mean, I feel like this is very subjective. I mean, uh, would you tell your employees that you wrote something by hand or that you did it on a computer? Would you tell employees that you filmed it on a camera or you filmed it on your phone? I mean, is the tool that you use the most important bit, or is the tool the means to the end? I don't know, unless you're doing deep fake videos of your CEO, which I don't recommend. For me, I don't think anybody would care. And as long as you're doing a good job, helping the employees get the information they need to do their job, happy days. Now, I'm sure a million people would disagree with me on that, and that's totally fine. But for me, if I was an employee, would I care? I don't think that I would. Like if I'm going through LinkedIn, if someone has used ChatGPT to write their post, well, first of all, maybe I can see it, but like I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me. Do you know what I mean? If the content is good and achieves the objective, done. Again, it's just a tool. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Kath Davies, this is a very interesting one. How do you retain the muscle memory slash skills and not have AI take over? I mean, there's definitely, like, I had a conversation with someone recently who's been using ChatGPT for a lot of like content creation and writing drafts. And she did say she's finding it harder to write now from scratch. Like her internet went down one day and she had to write something. And she was nearly lost, like without it. So again, this is a very personal, subjective thing. I don't really like to use AI to write. That's partly because if you'd asked me when I was 6 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would have said a writer. Like I just love to write. It's in my blood. So I write a newsletter every week. That's always me. I write all my LinkedIn posts. I write my YouTube scripts. I feel like that's a practice that if I outsource that to AI, that muscle would weaken. And I wouldn't be very happy about that. But if you don't really like to write or you find writing really difficult, it could be a great partner for you. Whereas for me, like anything to do with the numbers analysis, like I will totally outsource that to AI because my I'm not that strong in that anyway. So I think it's about maybe identifying the bits that are really important to you and that align most with your values and like keep doing those bits yourself. Like just because the tool can do it doesn't mean that it has to. Okay, I'm conscious of time. Let me maybe take one more. Um, Okay. Hannah says, do you experience, I like the way you've written this, do you experience a lot of hallucinations that it tells you things that are factually untrue? I mean, yes. I've seen some like amazing stories in the news this year, particularly like lawyers or law firms that are trying to use AI and they get as far as court and then the judge throws out their case because they'll have cited case law in their documentation that does not exist, that AI just hallucinated. And it will say John Doe versus the county of whatever, 1967. It's like that case never existed. AI will make up all sorts of things. I feel like ChatGPT is the worst for this. But anytime you're trying to do like proper research or you need sources or citations, I would not use AI for that because it makes things up, and then you're probably going to spend just as much time checking and verifying than you would have if you just did it by yourself. So I'm glad you brought that up because maybe we don't talk about that enough. But I like the way you said, do you experience a lot of hallucinations? I don't, Hannah, but thanks. Thanks for asking. Okay, I am going to leave it there because I've already run over time, but I really appreciate all your questions. If we are not connected on LinkedIn, please come and find me. I have a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday where I do a deep dive into loads of different issues on internal comms. Thank you very much to our wonderful friends at Workvivo, an amazing Irish company doing amazing things in the space of internal comms and employee experience. I will see you in January for our next event. Happy Christmas if you celebrate. If you don't, just enjoy some time off. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you soon.